Hi there, officially welcome to the new financial year. And in this month's update, I would like to discuss obviously not only just the property market and actually touch base a little bit about inflation as well as recession. Just from a lot of conversation that I've been having with my client, the word inflation and recession has been thrown about in the media a lot recently, more than ever before. And what I'm actually starting to find is that a lot of people out there don't actually have a really general understanding of inflation and recession. So I think it's really good to just give a basic understanding. In fact, personally, before doing a bit more research, my understanding of inflation and recession was probably not as good as what it is now, just just spending more time researching it. So despite, in terms of the current market, despite interest rate rises, in fact 12 rate rise since May 2022, believe it or not, house prices are going up. In fact, what we've seen in the last 3 or 4 months of consecutive rises, that there are some places and certain properties that are now achieving prices that are at the peak of, that were the same at the peak of the property in April, May, June last year as well. So that's incredible because the drop was approximately 10 to 12% across most areas. So this represents a rise in some area between 10 to 12%, which is absolutely incredible. And what makes it even more incredible is the fact that, inflation is still relatively high, even though the latest figures have come out, I think around 5.4, 5.5%, which is lower than what they were expecting. It's still way off the target, which means that we could likely face a few more rate rises, but at the same time, and the reason why house prices are going up and it's expected to keep going up is basically due to the supply and demand. There are less properties on the market and more people wanting to buy, and that causes the house prices to rise. And in fact, due to the lack of the lack of skilled workers, the government has made it a lot easier for people to migrate into Australia because of the need of skilled workers. In fact, migration has been so high that it's helping fill the real estate market, where people are moving here, they need accommodation, they buy property, they need to rent property. So this is this is what's happening at the moment. So quick talk about inflation. Every month, pretty much almost every day, the media talks about inflation because it's to do with rate rise, which obviously affects a lot of the population. Whether you have a mortgage or you have huge savings in your bank account, inflation affects you when it affects mortgages. So the simple terms which I come up with, obviously I'm just going to read it off off to you, is basically inflation happens when there is more money in the economy than things to spend it on. When loans are cheap and easy to get, people tend to borrow more money, and when people have access to more funds, whether it's through a line of credit or whatever, people tend to buy things that they don't necessarily need. So it's more a want than a need. And as more people are out there buying the same item, for example a car, everybody wants to buy a car, and the supplier cannot keep up with the demand. It results in the store having to raise the price to accommodate for this. Basically, this is a summary for inflation. For example, personally, what I've seen is I've seen certain cars out there that was selling for, let's say, $50,000 before before the COVID market, and the same car now is selling for $70,000 or $80,000 because of the amount of demand that everybody wants to buy the same car, and supply time has gone out as far as 12 months. So what suppliers do is to try to reduce the number of orders, because they cannot fulfill that orders anyway. They just increase the price, which obviously is is the basic understanding of recession. Of inflation. And now recession. So we've been hearing a lot, is a recession coming, is a recession not coming? So basically, recession happens in this case where if interest rate rise or inflation occur at a rapid rate, people then become cautious about spending their money and want to save instead. So for example, as we all know, every month that rate has rise, most mortgage holder will go, oh, you know what, is it going to keep going up? Do I need to stop spending? So what happens is suddenly people keep saving because they're afraid of where the future lies. And as they do that, obviously people buy less things in the market, businesses slow down. Now these places that were selling, that selling the more expensive product can't sell anything, and therefore have to lower their price to stay afloat, so that people will actually buy the product, and they have to cut costs by laying off people, and which sends the unemployment rate up. So basically that's what happens in a recession. The technical definition of recession is when the country when the country goes through two consecutive quarter of negative growth. So basically that's the technical side of it. The last thing that we want to discuss as well is, should you consider selling your home? Obviously, big question. market's hot at the moment, incredible prices are getting out there. We're not sure what the future is what it's gonna bring. If we have more rate rise, what if the market fall? What if supply increases? What in the position? So basically, my advice to client is give us a ring to have further chat in terms of what your personal situation is, and don't rely on the media prediction. Currently, the housing market is very strong with homes selling closer to peak prices, which we discussed at the start of this video. This represents an incredible recovery. The people that are considering selling now that we're finding is investors. For example, if you're an investor that have owned a property for a very long time, this could be one of the best time to cash out of your investment, because you're able to get a premium for your investment. You're able to get a premium and you've owned it for a very very long time. Or people in your personal circumstances where you require bigger or smaller homes, if you're buying and selling in the same market, it doesn't really actually matter which market you're doing, as long as it's in the same market. The biggest advice that I give to my client is that you just need to make sure that you are financially comfortable. Speak to your accountant, speak to your financial planner. So you should always consider your personal financial situation and make the best decision as well. So the biggest advice I have as well is that if you own investment right now, or you can afford to buy property, as long as you're comfortable, you can never go wrong buying property and holding on to them, because majority of the clients that I deal with that are wealthy, that have done incredibly well, and I've seen hundreds of them, basically have built their wealth through real estate, which is probably the most common way of wealth building in Australia, from what we see. Please feel free to reach out to me at any time to further have any discussion about the market, about strategy, about property. We're always going to give you our personal advice based on our many years of experience in the market. But hopefully you gain some insight and some knowledge about the market from this video. And thank you so much for your time.